Becky Lynch is the #1 wrestler in the WWE right now. There's no two ways about it. Exploding in the latter half of 2018 and just riding that wave like a pro, everybody loves the last kicker, apart from that one guy on Twitter who just has to be different. You keep doing you, man. Because she's reached this new level though, all of a sudden there's things that WWE would probably rather we didn't talk about anymore because it doesn't fit the new version of Lynch that they have. It happens in wrestling all the time. If you've been hovering around not doing much and then boom, you're on top of the world, some people may be a little red-faced that they didn't see the writing on the wall sooner. Fair play to Becky, however, she got herself over and it doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime soon. But still, I'm Simon from What Culture. This is 10 things WWE wants you to forget about Becky Lynch. Number 10, the man was supposed to be a pure heel. Let's start by going back only a few months, because let's not forget the anti-heroin gimmick that we now have started off as a way to turn Becky Lynch heel. That seems bizarre, because right out the gate she felt like a mix between Stone Cold Steve Austin and CM Punk, and when was that pairing ever gonna get booed by fans? It's many people's dream come true, and Lynch was able to put it off like she'd been doing it for years. That was the plan though, whether we like it or not. When Becky was cutting her post-SummerSlam attack promo on Charlotte, she deliberately went after the audience, told us we never cared, that we didn't support her enough, and what did we all do? We cheered because nobody was buying it. It was empty words clearly put in place by somebody else. Rather than ignore it, however, WWE realized it was a waste of time and changed plans as soon as they were able to. All of a sudden, announcers were praising Becky's fighting spirit and how she's taken control of her career again. But of course, this was never the plan. Given what's happened since, no one wants us to remember that, and yet we do. How could we not? Number 9, she wasn't entirely wrong about Charlotte. A huge reason why none of us wanted to boo Lynch was because everything she was saying was correct. I get that a good heel has to buy into what they're putting out there, but if when you dive into that information you too realize it's actually true, well then you gotta go with it. And they were the facts. Becky had been overlooked in favor of others since she debuted, and for a long time was treated like Flair's sidekick. That only changed when Lynch herself booted Charlotte in the face at the biggest event of the summer, and it was easy to see why the 2019 Rumble winner snapped. It was all a bunch of nonsense. WWE still fought this for a while by twisting it so that Charlotte was shocked Becky would behave this way, but that doesn't change the truth. It ran its course pretty quickly as once more we shifted events so that Flair now acted like a super cocky heel who didn't care that for ages Lynch had been represented as nothing more than her BFF. Entries 9 and 10 kinda merge into one for this whole thing, but it's absolutely how we got here to begin with. There was probably a much easier route. Number 8, PCB. Remember PCB, or Paige, Charlotte, Becky, which has got to be the laziest group name WWE has come up with for a while? It's pretty much the same way The Simpsons' Poochie got his. A bunch of can't-be-bothered executives. But the 13th of July 2015 episode of Raw was one for the history books as Stephanie McMahon announced the revolution of the women's division as NXT's Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch debuted on the main roster. Each of them is now firmly part of that and an integral part to boot. When we focus on Lynch mind, this wasn't as quick as what happened with the other two. In PCB, she was booked as the third wheel. Paige was already established and Charlotte was the chosen one for WWE as she'd already been pegged for a title reign. All Becky was allowed to do was stand in the background and smile. This was made even worse when Paige even called Lynch the least relevant of the three that September, which then led to her being screwed over by both the UK wrestler and Charlotte. No wonder she finally lost it in 2018. Number 7, the original PCB. While I did just rag on the name minutes ago, there was probably a reason WWE went for something so simple. The original one was a disaster. Dubbed the submission sorority, that became a problem when you did a quick Google with that in the search box. For you see, that was also the name of a porn series produced by the Bang Bros. The company would later tell TMZ that the adult agency's web interest shot up 56% overnight following Raw, and I don't think this was ever part of the plan. And yeah, I know there was a reason for this. It was meant to reflect that each of the women did have a pretty badass submission hold, but still, you can't have your fans stumbling across pornography when they're looking to see what happened on the Monday night show. This was killed double quick, and we got PCB instead. Research is always your friend. Number 6, that Ric Flair kiss. This was so odd even if Ric Flair had been calling himself a kiss stealer for years. There's one thing to say it, when you do it, I don't know, man. During Becky Lynch's title match against Charlotte at the 2016 Royal Rumble though, Flair, who was in his daughter's corner, grabbed Becky and forcibly kissed her. No one really enjoyed this, and it was creepy, to be honest. Why was an old man allowed to do this with no real repercussions? Entertaining, it was not. For balance, many also pointed out this was what Rick's character would do and gave Lynch a valid excuse for losing, and I'll let you decide which side of the fence you fall on. But did WWE delete this from future showings of the match? Well, if you go and watch it now, you'll see Flair wooing Becky's face before Charlotte just cuts her off. It works for me right now, as that's actual proof that WWE wants you to forget about this. We'll unlikely see anything like that in 2019, so that's that, it's dead. Unless we talk about it in places like this. Number 5, her first SmackDown title run was only okay. Becky Lynch deserved to be the champion, but during her first 2 runs, WWE never really went all in with it. For example, her first reign went on for a mere 84 days, and her second was a tiny bit longer at 91. Her original win should have been bigger too, because it was the first in the belt's history. Lynch captured the SmackDown Championship at Backlash in September 2016 after it was invented, and defended it once before being booked to lose it. That was to Alexa Bliss at the TLC pay-per-view in December, and it undercut any momentum she was able to get. Even that wasn't ideal, as while she was kind of just hanging out on Tuesday nights, WWE was going big with Sasha Banks versus Charlotte in the first ever Hell in a Cell match. Now that Lynch is the biggest thing in the company, this isn't a time period we need to go back to. If we had acted better, maybe Becky would have got to the big time far quicker. Number 4, La Luchadora. A reason we didn't get there sooner though, is because of bizarre angles Lynch was often put in, for example, La Luchadora. Trying to inject some fun into a story, which I do appreciate, this mysterious wrestler turned up on SmackDown in December 2016 as a way for Lynch to get another shot at the women's title she'd just lost. Because wrestling actually has no rules, La Luchadora was able to beat Bliss to become the #1 contender, even though it was actually Becky. And who's to say it's hard for a new fan to understand the story sometimes? A month later, however, during a steel cage match, another luchadora popped up, although now it was Mickie James making her WWE comeback and helping Bliss retain at the same time. Convoluted is not the word, and the fact Becky's own idea had returned to haunt her painted her as the fool. She is not. It suffered once more because the Raw women's scene was so much better, and the payoff to the whole thing was that Naomi beat Bliss, not Becky. Right. Number 3, WrestleMania 34. Addressing this in her own promos right now, Becky Lynch genuinely has gone from one extreme to the next where WrestleMania is concerned. If she does indeed main event 35, it'll be a huge leap from 34 when she was stuck in the pre-show Battle Royal with 19 other women. It was the first one ever which added some importance to it, but is anybody talking about it now? Not really. Do you even remember who won? It was Naomi, in case you'd like to know. She threw out Bayley. Before this, Lynch had been eliminated by Mickie James and felt like a bit of an afterthought. That's what makes her current run so satisfying though, and potentially one of those things where the past actually helps the present. You can buy into Becky's struggles and how she overcame them because they're right there to see. From opening bell to the last one of the night, she has utterly turned things around. Number 2, reports said WWE hated her accent. We never know how true these things are, so take it with a pinch of salt, but yes, many reports around the time she won the SmackDown Women's title in 2016 said that WWE production head Kevin Dunn did not like Becky Lynch's voice. What? Coming from the Wrestling Observer, it said that Dunn wasn't fond of Lynch's Irish accent and didn't think it worked well in promos. If you want some fuel to add to the fire, there did seem to be a reluctance to allowing her to talk on Tuesday nights, and when she did, her lines were kept short. Let's say for a moment this was true, and boy howdy is that a ridiculous notion now. For one, I don't think anybody cares about accents these days when it comes to who should and shouldn't get pushed, and 2, Becky's fire on the mic, runs people down like a getaway car. If anything, her voice helps her stand out. Nobody else sounds like Lynch. Wrestling has always been about celebrating unique and original qualities, so this was just dumb all round. WWE is a worldwide company, for goodness sake. Thankfully, all of that seems to be well and truly in the past. Number 1, the Irish dancer. WWE just can't help themselves, can they? Obsessed with stereotypes. When Becky Lynch first arrived in NXT for a match with Summer Rae, she tap danced the night away until she got leveled with a big clothesline. As ever, it simply came from the fact Becky was Irish and there was a jig named after that. We don't need to go any further, although I do wonder if she was asked for her thoughts on Michael Flatley. There's every chance this was a decision made between all parties, but that still doesn't mean it was for the best, especially when you look at Becky today and what she's capable of. Being reduced to where you're from doesn't really leave you with too much room to play with. That's why today, if you want to forget about it, nobody is gonna mind all too much. Know of any other things WWE wants you to forget about Becky Lynch, including probably this list? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head on over to whatculture.com and read yourself some articles. Follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. And why not go and watch a few more videos about Becky Lynch here on What Culture Wrestling. My name was Simon Miller. This was What Culture. Thank you very much for listening. I will chat to you soon. Unless, of course, your brain gets taken over. You do forget everything I've just said. And in that case, you've got to go back to the start and listen and watch the video all over again. That's called life, Jack. I'll speak to you soon. Said that twice.